Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? I hope good. I wanted to share some things with you today because I've had quite a few people messaging me and asking me more about the three parts of the brain that I talk about: the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex, and how they work with trauma, or how they're wired. And then I had a few people asking, the same things, like, why can't I seem to forget these certain things? Why do these, the voices in our head, the nagging, constant, you're a piece of shit, you're this or that kind of stuff. Why do we have this? And then also to explain a little bit more of how, if you've had, chronic trauma, childhood trauma, especially childhood, because your brain is being wired while it's being developed. So, a lot of information there. I just wanted to get right off because you know me. If you watch me, I tend to just kind of go off. So I have notes to kind of keep me on track today with you guys. If you don't know me, I'm Christine. I'm the founder and owner of Whispers of the Wounded Soul. I'm just a person sitting here sharing all the tools and all the lessons that I've learned through the years that have helped me just this past year really start finally healing from a lifetime of trauma. It's just been nothing but trauma, and a lot of it I'm learning were my bad choices. But I learned to not blame myself for those bad choices because, as I'm going to explain, our brains were wired during trauma. While they're being developed, they're also being wired in trauma. So I wanted to, go into that more with you today. And I'm also the author of Turning Wounds into Wisdom and Whispers of Healing. So Turning Wounds into Wisdom is a book that I wrote while I was healing. I talk about it in some other videos. I finally had my major breakdown where I just lost it. Body function, like everything. Like I was just a mess. So instead of, the worst possible scenario, I chose to, I thought, after 58 years, nothing is getting better. I'm still here. And I secluded myself. That seclusion kind of spiraled and brought me to the rock bottom of the basement, rock bottom part of the basement, whatever. Unfortunately, but it also helped me heal at the same time. So it's just wild how life works. But at least now I'm handling life in such a better, healthier way than I did my entire life. So in this book, while I was healing, with each chapter, I talk about situations and things that I've gone through in life from birth all the way to last year. And at the end of each chapter, I kind of give you like a shadow work question and then a little comforting, affirmation or something to calm you, to bring you calm again, to make you calm again. So it's not a long book. I'm working on a full memoir because I've had quite a few people through my life tell me I should write a book. And this wasn't supposed to be that. This was because I was like, oh my God, what about all the other people out there that are suffering with these same things? All these people that have been at the end of their rope, and maybe, and I know I have many friends who aren't here with me anymore because they chose the alternative. They didn't think there was hope, they gave up. And I was there so many times. But just last year, like I said, I was at that end of my rope and something just told me I needed to seclude. I called a friend. She happened to have a room available, and I went in that room and healed. And I talk about that in my book and in a lot of other videos. And then I came up with I had this in the back of my mind, but I ended up publishing. These are all edited and published by myself, so I think I did pretty good. But anyway, so this is a shadow work book. I talk a lot about a way of healing is writing it out, journaling. If you can journal and you have a place to hide it or keep it or lock it or something, really do that, because you can go back years later and see things and say, wow, I've come a long way, or wow, I'm continuing the same spiral like I had done. So it's really good. If you can't, I get it, because there were years there's journals that I've thrown away because I was in a situation where I didn't want anyone to find it. and it sucks because there was things in there that that I feel like might have helped me heal, might have brought me back so that I could process it. And I talk about that too. You have to process things in order to heal them, unfortunately. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it if you want to live. I talk about all the time, and not just survive and not just exist, to really live and enjoy life before it's too late. So anyway, so that was how the books came about. This shadow work book is like a journal for you. It prompts you to bring you back to certain situations. How did it make you feel? You know, all that. And then at the end, it guides you back to some peace, some little affirmations, some little rituals. I'm trying to share everything in my life so that others out there don't feel alone and don't give up. And that's what this is all about. You know, I've had great feedback, and I've had so many people reach out to me with their own stories, and you'd be surprised. Men, women, all ages have reached out to me going through similar situations. We're all here. We're all here striving for what we believe is that we're supposed to strive for. And I'm going to kind of go into this. So we're all here with the same kind of problems. We really are. They might not be exact, but we're all here doing it, and we're all here struggling. And some of us, unfortunately, have carried these struggles our entire lives. And that is really how this all came about. Because as I'm sitting there, like I said, thinking, what about the people who are ready to give up right now and think that there's no hope? That's where I was. I had these tools under my belt for over 20 years, and I just wasn't using them on me. When I started applying them as they're working, I'm sharing them with you. So anything that I share are things that I've tried. They're working. They're proven to work. That's why I always tell you, Google it if you want. You can look up the people that I've studied. You know, you can look up all of it. So, jumping into this, I wanted to read to you because otherwise, you know, I'll be yapping all day. So, every human brain is designed to scan for danger. Deep inside the brain, a small structure called the amygdala, and I talk about that part of the brain all the time, and that's why this is important, if you want to know. If you don't care about all the intricates and the ins and outs and why your brain was wired, then you might not want to sit and listen to this thing. It's not one of my normal videos that I do. But for those who really want to know and stop blaming themselves and realize there's hope and they can rewire everything that had been wired in the traumas, then stay. So it constantly watches the environment for anything that might threaten our safety. The amygdala does not pause to analyze situations logically. It reacts quickly and emotionally. So, keep that in mind. When the amygdala senses danger, it sends signals through the nervous system that activates your body's fight or flight response. This triggers the stress hormone system known as the HPA, which is your adrenaline. You know, it releases the adrenaline and cortisol, the hormones. These chemicals prepare your body for survival. Your heart rate goes up, your breathing changes, your muscles tighten, and your body prepares to protect you from the danger that your brain thinks that you're having. So this is all, you know, your brain and your body, your nervous system, it's all working together. And that amygdala is now, if you've been through a lot of trauma, it's set on like a smoke detector on like high alert. Even just the smell of, even just a little bit of heat somewhere, it's gonna go off and be like danger. So another important part is the hippocampus. That part organizes the stories in your memories, everything that's stored. The hippocampus helps your brain compare what's happening right now with what has happened in the past. The problem is that the memories are not stored only as facts, they're stored together as emotions. So that's why our body responds to it the way it does. When something in the present reminds the brain an old painful experience, reminds it of an old painful experience, the hippocampus can activate emotional memories. So now here's the amygdala that's like, uh-oh, danger. And now that hippocampus is going to bring back all the memories that had to do with that, even if it's not happening right now. And now your body already, released the cortisol and the adrenaline. and you're already in that ready for fight or flight. You're either going to run or you're going to fight. It says this is why triggers feel so powerful. Your body can react as if something dangerous is happening again, even if the current situation is not actually happening. So that's kind of what I just said. The third important area is your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that's responsible for reasoning and decision making, reflection, and emotional regulation. When things are calm, this part of your brain helps you slow down and choose your responses thoughtfully. But when the amygdala alarm is very loud, the thinking brain can temporarily take a back seat. So it just kind of shuts down. This is why people sometimes react in a way, and then later question it or regret their reaction. Let's see what else. Yeah, the survival system was in charge at that moment. So, again, your amygdala senses the danger. Your hippocampus is going to remind you of all the times that this situation happened. Your body, before you even have a chance to do anything, your adrenaline and your cortisol have already released. That's done. Because remember, it said your amygdala doesn't stop to question anything. You're in danger. And then your prefrontal cortex kind of just takes a back seat for a minute and sits out. And now your brain, all your decisions are being run on those two parts of your brain that are running on trauma. So that's why when people say, well, when I did this, I was running on trauma. And then there's people like, well, you're an adult now, you should have known better. And no, your brain didn't all of a sudden lose all the trauma and rewire itself to an adult when you turned 18 or turned 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60. You have to change the thought. You have to change the patterns. You have to rewire it yourself, because you took some situation that happened years ago. Your body held on to that in the emotions and everything in that memory, and now every time it comes up, you're off in that situation. So that, like I said, brings me back to when I was healing. I'm like, I'm still here in this situation, the same place that I keep ending up. I keep ending up here. Why? And I even said at times, I've learned from this situation. I'm not going to do that again. And here I am back in this situation again. Why? I wanted to know why. And I've talked before. I have been through, psychiatrists. I think I was like 13 years old when I kind of started. And when I said I didn't want to go back anymore, that I didn't think it was working, no one made me go back. And then I went again years later, and then I went again. But through a lot of those years, I was on all kinds of medications too, and I talk about that openly. I used to be embarrassed, but I'm not. They thought I had a chemical imbalance. What I might have had slightly, and I might still. I'm not rap-tee-tight, I admit. But I'm a fun, crazy person. But yeah, it's like, all of that wiring and stuff happened when I was a kid. So, when people say I was running on trauma responses, it's not an excuse. It's an excuse. Because when our brain or their brain or whoever's brain was being developed as a child, it got developed around, chronic trauma and violence and drugs and this and that and whatever you were dealing with. I had it all. I was 4 or 5 years old running around orgies, carefree, running around hanging out while everyone was having their fun. I was playing. I don't recall that I was involved there. That hasn't come up. Hopefully not. But I was there, saw it all. Drugs, violence, and my mom beating my dad a lot, honestly. Just even the household where I grew up when my grandparents were trying to save me. I had alcoholics in the household there, and there was constantly screaming and fighting. I remember sitting in a closet, moving the hamper out of the way so that I could hide, and just putting my hands over my ears because I didn't want to hear it anymore. While my brain was developing, all of this is going on. If you've been through, psychological or child abuse or physical child abuse, any of that, or even as an adult, if you were between the ages of like 18 and 22, your brain is still developing, believe it or not. So things that happen to you, a situation or something, you had enough time to, I'm just a piece of shit. He says I'm not good enough, or she says I'm not good enough, because it goes both ways. I mean, my book and everything, obviously looks like it's for women, but men are struggling too. I have a lot of men that come to me and talk to me. I will do anything I can to try to help you. But a lot of people who have come to talk to me, and I'm working, please know if you're watching me that I am working on some things for everybody. I'm trying to, a lot of people have similar issues. So what I'm doing is trying to come up with a little bit of like a tapping session or different things that I can do where it's similar. You know what I mean? And then you're going to take the part of what you're going through exactly, like your situation exactly. Like I said, at the tapping, you can say, oh, this anxiety, or oh, this bill that's coming up. I mean, whatever your situation, that's what I mean. But I can guide you through something that's kind of general to get you started. And then for each person who I'm working with, I'm going to put in the personal parts for you, what I think you should say. Just from my experience. Again, I don't know it all. I'm certified in belief clearing. I'm certified in hypnosis, and I'm about to be certified in neuro-linguistic programming. I'm studying the brain. I've been studying this stuff for over 20 years to try to fix me. And I'm sharing with you because if there's something I can do to help you, I want to. If I can save you from giving up, that's why I'm here. So again, I'm working on the ones who are waiting for me, but anyone else who wants to try to work with me, I will make something tailored for you. It's going to be a general tapping series. That's what I meant. And then you will have a specific thing tailored to what you're going through. But the tapping series really doesn't change. It just depends on what you need to work on, what you need to say. And I kind of jumped into tapping, but that's my point. The healing's for everybody. There's no gender in healing. Whether you don't have to be a man or a woman to enjoy my book or to get anything out of it. So with that, I'm going to go on a little bit more to this. I told you guys I yap, and it is what it is. I'm here to help you, and I told you I'm not perfect. So, okay, let's get back to this. So, let's see. For the people experiencing childhood trauma, this becomes even more important to understand. A child's brain is still developing. During childhood, billions of neural connections are forming as the brain learns how the world works. If a child grows up in an environment that's unsafe, unpredictable, or emotionally painful, the brain learns very early that danger may be everywhere. The developing brain adapts to survive. So even though like I said, your amygdala for everyone on the planet is looking for danger because that's what it's meant to do. But when it's set only in survival, and that's what I was saying, it's not going to recognize, it's not going to pause for a minute and say, oh, this is just a door slamming, or this is just this happened. You know what I mean? I can't really put every situation out there, but you know what I mean. So this is when many people who experience trauma early in life feel like their minds are automatically expecting danger. Their brain is not trying to sabotage them. It's trying to protect them based on what it learned through their development. So when the brain repeatedly activates the fight or flight response, the body's stress hormone system can be dysregulated. The system that releases cortisol and other stress hormones is designed to turn on during danger and then return to normal afterwards. So if you suffer with fibromyalgia and other ailments, you'll see why that too actually goes with this. Where I lost it. See, this is what I do. Okay. But when someone lives in survival mode for long periods of time, that system can become overworked and begin functioning abnormally. Researchers have found that long-term stress can affect how the body regulates cortisol and other stress hormones. Over time, this dysregulation may contribute to fatigue, chronic pain, inflammation problems, conditions such as fibromyalgia in some individuals. This helps explain why trauma does not only affect thoughts, it affects the brain, the nervous system, and the body working together. Understanding this can remove a tremendous amount of shame. And again, why I'm sharing this, because we walk around beating ourselves up for decisions we made. And I was just doing it last year at this time when I was writing the book. We're in March of 2026. It was literally the end of March 2025 when I was done. You know, everyone says, well, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better. I just turned 58. When's it going to get better? I thought I was at the, at the basement. I'm actually there now. And I talk about that in other videos too. For the first time in my life, I'm handling the situation. As you see, I'm smiling. I'm genuinely happy because I just choose to be, because I realize I have control over these thoughts. And once you start to learn you have control over those thoughts, it's freeing, because things might be happening to me, but I don't have to carry it around with me all day. And nothing says you have to. It's society programs us. I actually think I had something in there about that. Did I put that in here? I kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that society, maybe, is it here? All right, but anyway, so many people who experience trauma blame themselves for their reactions, their struggles, their choices they made while trying to survive. But the truth is that their brain and nervous system were operating according to the patterns they developed in order to stay safe. The hopeful part is that the brain also has something called neuroplasticity, which means it can change and rewire thoughts throughout your life. Practices such as mindfulness, belief clearing can activate your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that can observe what is happening instead of automatically reacting. The amygdala may still sound the alarm at first, and the body may still react, but awareness creates a pause between the trigger and the reaction. In that pause, a person can begin to question the old beliefs that were formed during survival mode. Healing doesn't mean the brain will never react that way again. The survival system's a part of human nature, but the awareness practice and the compassion for ourselves can begin to teach the brain. So that was my notes. So yeah, we can rewire the brain. We don't have to live in everything that we've struggled through in our lives. And we don't have to beat ourselves up for decisions we made. And when someone says, well, you were an adult, you should have known better, they're never going to get it if they lived a happy, good life. And I know many people, many people. And in fact, there's a reactor that I watch. She's actually like a opera singer or something. And I watch her reactions to different groups and bands. And she was just saying what a beautiful childhood she had. All she remembers is, running around in pastures and with her family and all the love and her mom and dad and all the things they did with her siblings together. She said she just had such a beautiful, beautiful life growing up as a little girl. I wouldn't even begin to know what that was. I remember, and thankfully, I guess a part of me always did choose something in the positive somehow, because I do remember there was a field in my backyard. We had a deer. There had been a zoo there years before, and when they kind of took off and closed down, one of the deer got loose. Because he was tamed, my family was able to get a permit, build a huge pen, a huge fenced-in area for him, and a place for him to get, out of the weather. And we were allowed to keep him. So I was always known as the little girl with the deer. A lot of people would know who I am if they heard that. But anyway, I remember that. And I remember running around in the big field down there, chasing butterflies and dragonflies and all the things. And I remember even points at, when I was a teenager, I remember just having a blast, going out with my friends, having a good time. I do remember times when I was happy. And there was also times where after those moments of happiness, I also would seclude myself and close myself in and go into my depression. So a lot of the times it was a mask, but there were times where I feel like I genuinely was happy. And that's good that I remember those. When I did my healing and my shadow work, unfortunately, things that I buried that I'd never even wanted to ever remember again came up. But that's what I talk about. If you're in therapy and you're on medication or any of that, talk to your doctor first about shadow work. Explain to them me. Bring my book or something if you're reading my book, or just in general talk about shadow work. It's you have to really be careful, because I was in a really, really, really bad place. And I did this alone, but I also had these tools that I had done for years in the certifications and stuff, like I said. So I had like the knowledge of knowing that our brain can rewire. And I think that helped me through it. Had I not had any of that, and again, that's why I'm sharing all of this with you, I was on the verge of giving up. I don't even know if going into that seclusion would have saved me, because things were coming up that were just like, here I am, and look where I am. How did I get here? How did I get here? And a lot of it, and I talk about often, are decisions other people made. There's a lot of us out there, and even people who don't have trauma, who have people make decisions that affect their lives. It just is what it is. Someone's decision, someone's choice affects your life. It dribbles down. So there's times too where someone made a choice, that affected me. And because I'm in fight or flight, I'm gone. I'm running, or I'm fighting, or I'm this or that. I didn't have that, time for my brain to say, okay, this situation is safe. Let me try to think about where I'm going to go from here. There was no choice for that. I just did what was going to save me, because that's what our brain is trying to do. It's trying to save us. And then, like I said, they say the body remembers. I talk about the body keeps the score, a book that I read and I still pull out occasionally. A lot of information in there about how much our body holds on to. Years ago, the mind, body, spirit, all that, and I heard little things that intrigued me. But I'm the type of person, that's why I do all this and all this research and studying, because I want to see every aspect. And that's a part of trauma brain too. I want to know every part of it. And that can be a problem for us trauma survivors, of wanting to know how things are going to work out. You have to know every single point of a problem and how it's going to work out. You really don't. That's a trauma response. As long as you do what you know you need to do to set that in motion, that's when you have to sit back and let it happen. You did what you did. It doesn't matter now how it works out or anything. It really doesn't. Once you did everything that you could do, you have to let it happen. Because when you start messing with it, and you know what I mean, or start focusing your mind on the negative part of it, that's a whole nother video. But anyway, I'm going to end it because I don't want it to go over 40 minutes again. And I'm so sorry my messages are so long. I like to talk, and once I get rolling and things come into my head, I really want to share it with you guys. So I will do another video in a little bit with some more fun cards and some fun little messages. And, make it a good day. And remember, you're not going to ever get those people to understand. If they don't, they don't. If they had a happy, good life, they won't even begin to understand. And that's not their fault. But they're not going to get it. So there's no sense in explaining yourself. Just know for you. Look in that mirror. Tell yourself you love yourself. Tell yourself you're perfect. Tell yourself you forgive yourself for trying. All the positive things that you can do every single day. And when that negative thought comes up, well, this is what you do. You always end up eating at 9 p.m. You always end up doing this or that to blow your diet, that kind of stuff. You have to shut those sabotaging thoughts off and say, I can do this. I'm strong. I lose weight easily. Like, seriously, it just comes down to those type of ways of helping to rewire. All right, I'm shutting up. Have a good day, guys. Thanks.